Hi YouTube, welcome to part 2 of the budget head rebuild. In this episode we'll get to grips with the machine work to actually make the components good again, and obviously we'll look at assembling the cylinder head and some fitting of some new components, obviously to make the best of what we've actually got. Remember, this is not a full head rebuild, this is a head service. So let's get stuck in. So we're over on the valve grinder, and all we're going to do is we're going to cut two angles. So first of all, obviously you can see the pitting on the seat. What I'm actually going to do is back cut the seat first. So I'm going to put a 30-degree cut on it that narrows the seat, and then I'm going to change it round and cut the main angle. So basically what I'm going to do first is that. So we just, as you can see, I've put a nice back cut on that. So that's what I'm going to do to all the valves before I go back and cut all the seats. There we go. All that wear is now gone. So if we have a look at our valves now, that's valve number 8, and if we go down to the two centre ones, you can see all the pitting's gone, and obviously over to the end. So all we need to do now is get them all nicely lapped in, and then cylinder head just needs skimming. A few years ago I changed over to machine lapping, so I just basically used my pillar drill, and I've got just a cheap lapping head in there, but that works really well. I found that by experimentation I could actually get just the same seal as I can hand, but I could obviously do it a lot quicker. So to that end, we've started lapping, and this is interesting. So I just want to show you that. And we've got a seat there, as you can see, that's greyed up nicely, but it's not, there's no contact all the way around. And the reason for it is because that seat is actually distorted in use. So yeah, just goes to show that you know, when you think a seat looks good, because it looks good doesn't mean it actually is the right shape. So this is why sometimes having the seats cut is a real boon to obviously actually get your seal right. In this case, we're just going to lap that in. It shouldn't take too long. So let's crack on. Just give you a little update as we progress through lapping. So that's that first seat. As you can see, that's come up nicely now. Not quite full contact, but plenty enough for this application. Inlet seat next to it, the inlet seat next to that, and then obviously I've just got another one there, which is valve number 4, which is on the bad chamber, which is chamber number 2. And you can see again we got a little bit of work to do on that one, because again it's suffering with a bit of distortion. I just thought I'd add in here a little bit about unleaded cylinder head inserts that we have on the A series engine. Now this engine has done 100,000 miles, so you know, what's the benefit of having an unleaded insert? Well, if we just have a look at those seats, you can actually see that they're in very good condition. Okay, and if that was just running leaded fuel with no inserts in there at all, I can guarantee you that that exhaust seat would be in terrible condition at this sort of mileage. So even with unleaded fuel, having an insert in your cylinder head actually protects the cylinder head and actually stops erosion, stops the seat overheating, as many benefits. And if your cylinder head looks like that after well, this one's got 98,000 miles on it, you can see that those leaded or unleaded inserts have protected this casting, and that's something you don't get even on the old leaded heads. The cylinder head seats themselves would end up being very much eroded without any sort of protection. Even though the lead in the older fuel would protect the valve seats to some degree, they certainly wouldn't leave them looking like that after nearly 100,000 miles. So if you have a cylinder head, classic A series cylinder head, and you're worried about whether you should have it converted to unleaded or not, my answer is absolutely yes, because it will protect the casting and protect your investment, especially if it's been done properly. So all the seats are lapped. Just give you an overview of what they look like. But of course, it's not really what they look like, it's what they seal like. So what we're going to have to do is take it back over to the seal test jig and see how they test up. Just so you can see what the valves look like. They all look sweet. So let's go over to the jig and see how they test up now. Just so you can see what the test is, obviously got a piece of rubber on the press, head goes on there. We've fitted with our 2 valves that have been lapped in. We've got some light springs on there. There's no oil on the seat, so this is completely dry. So there's no, I'm not trying to fake this or anything or try and get a better figure. But what we're going to do now is we'll go through and we'll test each chamber with its valves in, and hopefully we would reduce our figures. Now the old figures we had were 16% on number 1, we had 23 on number 2, we had 16 again on number 3, and we had 8 on number 4. So hopefully we're going to reduce them right down. So let's get into that test and see what we've actually got. So back on the jig we have just 1%. That is perfect. So let's go and test the rest and see what we get there. So number 2, 1%. Beautiful. Let's get on and test the rest. So number 3, again 1%. So let's get on to the last one and see if we get a clean sweep at 1% all the way across. And again, number 4, we've got a full house. It's 1% on number 4, which is 1% all the way across. So that head, all it needs to do now is give it a skim, give it a clean, and put it together. So one of the things that's often overlooked when people do a head rebuild is cleaning out the stud holes. So make sure that these are all clear. So I've gone through and used just a little bit of emery through the stud holes, and you can see here these haven't been done yet, so they're all dirty, as you can see. And then obviously one that I've already run through. So yeah, very simple. Just use a little bit of emery, 60 grit on the end of a split rod, just put it through, clean the holes. The idea is to clean the holes, not make them bigger, especially the one in the middle, because that is a location hole. So the one in the middle on the middle at the front is sized to get the head in line with the cylinder, so it's an alignment hole. So that is tighter than all the rest for a reason. But so the idea here is to clean out, not make the holes bigger. Also do it from both sides of the head as well, to make sure you get it nice and clean all the way through. Okay, so I thought I'd just take a little bit of time just to go through what we've just done there. Clearly, we've refaced the valves. I haven't cut the seats at all. All I've done is I've just lapped them in. But as you can see, the seal has been completely restored. So we got down to 1%, which is basically what I install all my valves at when I do cylinder heads. I haven't done any for a while because I've been busy on the road tuning, but in this particular case, this is what I normally do for road engines. If I do a high-end cylinder head, then that would be 0. So you would effectively be able to turn the air off and it would stay in the chamber. So the point I'm trying to say is, if you're paying somebody to do some valve seal work, for example, make sure they're sealed. All right, now in this particular case, they were quite bad. We could hear, certainly in part one of this video, when we put that on the jig, you could hear the air rushing out of those seats. And in this particular case, there was no air rushing out of the seats. And in actual fact, there was a very tiny amount, but you couldn't hear it because it was so small. And that's the point of actually doing a proper valve job, to actually get the thing sealed properly. So in terms of this cylinder head, this is now all ready to go on the milling machine and be skimmed, which is the next job. So let's crack on with that. So we're over on my milling machine. I've got the head bolted down. So one of the things we need to do is to make sure this is all flat, because clearly if we bolt this down to the machine and it's twisted, or it's set over at an angle, or it's this way or that way, obviously we're going to machine the head not parallel. So the first thing I'm going to do is just set the head parallel, and then obviously I'm going to machine it. Now on here we can actually see that imperfection there, so I'm just going to put a marker pen around that so we can highlight that. And then obviously I need to skim the cylinder head to take that imperfection out, and obviously to make it flat all the way over. So what I'll try and do first though is put a very light cut on, so we can actually see how flat the surface is. So I don't know how that is, so this might be a sort of a nugatory effort here, because it might be perfectly flat, but normally they're not. So let's take a light cut and see what it looks like. So we're just going to take a 1.5 thou cut and just see what the surface looks like. So after that light skim, what did that tell us? Well, you can see it's machined the head, and then you can see it's left bits, okay? And these are the low spots in the face. Now if we look all the way along, it's machined nicely, and then around the centre two chambers it's not machined at all. And that is because the head has changed shape in that 98,000 miles, and this is one of the reasons why just changing a head gasket won't necessarily fix the problem, purely because you've already got issues in the face of the surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to take more material off, obviously to get this nice and flat, and also our little issue in terms of our low spot is still there, so we've got to machine that out. Now in terms of this head, it had never been skimmed before, so it was actually about 7 thousandths bigger than the standard nominal size. So we've got loads of meat we can take off, but we don't want to take too much off because this is a high compression engine with flat top pistons. So if I can get away with less than 10 thou, that'll be great, but I'm not sure. So let's keep skimming and see what we get. So 5.5 thou total off now, and we can see we still got our indent there, which has got to come out, so we've got to take some more off. And we can also see we've now just started to clean up here, so we've just about got that flat, but we can also see the chambers are still a little bit low, so we're going to take a little bit more off, obviously to remove that, and then everything else should be perfect. So we're all skimmed. That was exactly 10 thousandths of an inch. So you might be wondering why these marks are here. Well, they're all corrosion marks that were inside the gasket line, so they're not actually going to be an issue. Most important thing is our marker's gone off the firing, and obviously we're now flat and clean, a nice clean cut all the way across the cylinder head. So what we can now do is take that off and clean all the swarf out, and then we can start thinking about assembling. Now just to let you know why we got these feelers here, and that's because when I put the cylinder head on, we had about 3 thousandths of an inch angle. So I had to shim this end up to actually get the head surface flat. That's what that's all about. One of the other things that's often overlooked is the need to chamfer the holes. So once it's been skimmed, you should go around and chamfer all the holes to remove any chances of sharp edges causing cracks, especially around the chambers. So I don't know if you can see there, but I've actually just broke the edge of that chamber with a needle file, and do that on all of them. Normally, certainly in the UK, when you get a cylinder head machined at a machine shop, very few of them actually do that. So it's one thing that you need to do. If you're paying somebody else to skim the cylinder head, then at least go around and chamfer all the holes and everything afterwards, just to break the edges. Okay, so got the head back on the bench. What I've now done is I've give it a good wash out with some brake cleaner, and also I've gone through the valve guides before assembly with you know, like a barrel brush, to go and obviously clean out all the valve guides, again using brake cleaner, so they're all nice and clean inside. Now what I'm going to do is fit the valve stem seals, and this particular engine is an A+ engine, and it uses the later top hat seal. So always recommended to fit these. These are the later MPI ones with the made out of the old Viton material, so that far superior material. They don't go hard, they stay pliable, and they go on and they do a good job. So and the other thing is, on these engines, the later engines, they use 8 and not 4, so you put one on each guide. Now clearly we need to use some sensible seals, because we haven't replaced the guides and they've got some wearing, so obviously we need a good seal to make sure that they seal up with that little bit of extra wearing. But the reality is this will be absolutely fine with a new set of decent seals. The other thing is, what I haven't done on this engine, because obviously it's a budget one, is I would normally go through and run a tap down all the threads and clean them out. What I've done here is I've just blown them out and determined that we've got good threads, so the owner shouldn't have any problem putting this back on. And that's one of the things you have to understand, is when you're trying to do a cylinder head and trying to do it on a budget, is you only do the work that needs to be done. In this particular case, the threads are all fine, so it doesn't need to be done. And therefore that's how we save the customer some money. So what I'm now going to do is get the stem seals and put them on, but I actually use a little bit of Loctite to put these on so they stay in place. So I'll get that done, and then we can look at the valve springs. So are we going to put it back together with the old valve springs? Bearing in mind these have done 98,000 miles. The answer is you'd be stupid to do that, because these fatigue with age, and you know, you really don't know how much life is left in these. So I'll put these on the valves spring checker, which I have, which I'll just put a picture in now. I'm not going to show them being tested, purely because I've got other videos which show the valve spring tester being used. But the point is, these are 60 to 61 pounds at the fitted length. Okay, and actually the new ones are 70 to 71 pounds at the fitted length. So it tells you that the new springs, although the same specification, the old ones relaxed over 10%, which is normal, to be fair, especially over that miles. So what we're going to do, they're cheap enough, we're going to put a new set of springs on to go with the new stem seals, get this all buttoned up, and it's ready for the customer to collect. So I'm halfway through putting these in. As you can see, we've got the new springs, the retainers in. Just wanted to say, when it comes to the retainers, just make sure that they're not damaged, and obviously they're clean, because at the end of the day, any grit caught in there and any old valve grinding paste that's still left in here will cause absolute havoc in service. So just make sure that everything's scrupulously clean when you put it back together, and it's all nice and oil in the guides, all on the valves, and then that just keeps everything you know, everything in fine fettle. The other thing is, also check the condition of your retainers to make sure they're not sort of dished where they've started to pull through, and the height of the retainers are not sunken into the you know, into the cap here, because if they sink where they've been over revved, they can start to pull through and these can fail. But normally not a problem on the standard one unless it's been absolutely abused, but this cylinder head hasn't, so we've got no issues there. The other thing is, use yourself a valve spring compressor. Now I've got, this is rather large, but I've got a pneumatic one, purely because it's just easier when I'm doing a lot of heads. It's a lot easier to use. But just a normal hand valve spring compressor is all you need for a classic mini cylinder head, preferably a smaller size, because this is obviously a small engine. If you're in a different country and you do big V8s, maybe your big V8 version might be a bit too heavy duty, but the reality is, using a proper valve spring compressor makes this job easy. And that's it, head assembled. So yeah, that is a head service. So that's all ready for the customer to collect. So with all that being said, let's go back over to the bench, and let's round up this video. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. I thought I'd put this together to show you, you know, sort of a way of saving a little bit of money on a rebuild. Just talking about costs, I just had a look this morning for the cost of a typically properly rebuilt cylinder head. That's with all the faces machined, new valves, new springs, new guides, seats cut, everything. You're looking probably with the shipping around 550, 600, maybe 625 pounds. And certainly if you had one off me, if I had time to do one, it would be certainly around the 600 mark, or maybe even more, depending on exactly how much work was needed. In terms of the cost of that head, yes, you can get cylinder heads cheaper than that. I have seen them around, so, you know, 425, but they don't necessarily have all the faces machined and things like that. In terms of where we come in on this one, the customer is going to be billed for £295. Now, considering you know, the savings that we were looking at, where we didn't have to machine the surfaces, all the surfaces, and we only did the work that needed to be done to the engine on the engineering side, that was actually relative to making that engine work, or make that head work properly so the engine runs properly. We're at £295, so I didn't think that was too bad. Obviously, and that included a new set of springs and obviously the valve stem seals, as you saw. So hopefully you found that or these two videos useful. Another thing I want to say as well is a lot of people having that work done will then gladly tell everybody that they've had a full head rebuild. That is not a full head rebuild. That is a head service, okay? So no engineering was done to the guides or the seats or anything. That was purely take it off, decoke, reseat the valves. Yes, I did obviously reface only the exhaust valves, but I didn't reface the inlets either because they didn't need it. So the point to try and understand is when somebody says, I've had a full rebuild, that's not a full rebuild. That is just a head service, okay? But it is perfectly sensible to do that on an engine so long as the parts in it are reusable, okay? If you take your valves out and you find that all this chrome plating's worn away and you're down to the steel underneath, there's little point in putting that back in, because you're actually through the wear surface and you're going to be, you know, chewing up metal into your oil and things like that. So the reality is you can only do a head service if there's enough you know, good material left in there to be able to do that. Now, this particular one had worn guides, and again, if the guides were worn out, then there's no point in doing this work. They were worn but not necessarily worn out, so they add some more life. And that's why it's always a good time to, you know, don't wait until your engine's absolutely trashed, okay? Because there's usually no life left in it at that point, and then it becomes an expensive rebuild. Do the servicing, do the maintenance before the thing's worn out, and then it will last longer. All right, so hopefully this couple of videos have been useful to you. Please like, subscribe and share, and hype this video, and I'll see you soon on the next ones. Thank you very much.